8 minutes on the clock's field, courtesy of our sponsor, Moxfield, and I want to start off this deck tech a little differently than I typically start these. You join me in progress at turn 4. On turn 3, we played Aerith Gainsborough, and on turn 4, we played Dihada, Binder of Wills. I want to show you what it's like in progress, because I think that is when people really see the power of Dihada. Right now, we've got two choices. We've got a legendary creature on the battlefield, because we'd like to prioritize legends that are 3 mana or less, so we can have a blocker down ahead of our Planeswalker commander. That +2 on Dihada says up to 1 target legendary creature gains Vigilance, Lifelink, and Indestructible until your next turn. There's a lot of implications to that you'll see threaded throughout the synergies of the deck, but the biggest takeaway is that you get a Vigilant, meaning it can attack without tapping, Indestructible, meaning it can't be destroyed, blocker for your Planeswalker commander, and that's very important. Now, that's not even the most important ability on Dihada, or the one I use the most often. That is the -3. We're going to reveal the top 4 cards of our library, put any number of legendary cards from among them into our hand, and the rest go into our graveyard. Then we create a treasure token for each card put into our graveyard this way. I typically want to prioritize this, and I'll show you why, over giving our Aerith Vigilance, Lifelink, and Indestructible at this point. Yes, we could start attacking in, but let me show you why you just want to go ahead and prioritize this. So we're going to -3 Dihada down to 2, and we're going to reveal the top 4 cards of our library. We can put any number of legendary cards from among them into our hand. We only have one option, so we're going to take it. That's Lauren of the Third Path. Swords to Plowshares, Luxury Suite, and Wear and Tear go into our graveyard. Typically, you want some more targets for Reanimator, but I just wanted to give a random shot at this so that you could see how it works in practice. Because we had 3 cards go into our graveyard, we are going to now create 3 treasure tokens that are ready to roll. They don't come onto the battlefield tapped. That's why I think it's so important to prioritize that -3 as soon, as early, and as often as you possibly can, because you get the treasures in recompense. I now have 3 mana open. In a perfect world, something like Stitch Together can start returning creatures. If this was a Reanimate, we can go ahead and play the Lauren of the Third Path, give ourselves a second blocker for Dihada, so that when it comes back around, we're at -3, so we can't do it again. We've got to tick Dihada up +2 the second time around. But when we come back, we go to our untap step, we draw a card, we play a land. We've got now 8 mana that we can use on our untap if everything else stayed the same. That's the power of Dihada. I'm constantly changing this deck out. There are a ton, you can see, of Final Fantasy cards that made it into this deck after that set. Yes, it had a Mardu Reanimator precon, and so that very much helped. But having new cards injected into this deck every set, especially stuff like Universes Beyond, Deadpool trading card, it's so fun to have a strong deck. This is a bracket 4 version of this deck that I'm constantly switching cards in and out whenever new legends are printed that fit the sub-synergies of the deck as I have it built. Look at stuff like Squall. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card, mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Look at how many 4 and 3 and less mana creatures we run in this deck. That's because Dihada can create up to a maximum of 4 treasures, and that number is 3 if you want at least one of the cards into your hand, which you do. You want that card advantage, plus you want the ramp. And so having Squall able to return a lot of our smaller legends or our fetch lands that we've had to sack, huge. Stuff like Terra that is filling up our graveyard and also reanimating the things. Know that cards like Alesha, Terra, these cards get better. We're more able to attack in this deck because Dihada can give our creature, our main legend at the time, Indestructible and Vigilance, Lifelink to boot, because we're going to be the target and be taking a lot of damage. Also lets us pay life as part of costs. Pretty excellent sub-theme there, that life gain sub-theme. Stuff like Gao, Feral Youth. At the beginning of each end step, if a card left your graveyard this turn, which we hope is happening quite often, Gal deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. And whenever it attacks, it's growing. So you got that Vigilance Indestructible lifelink on Gal. It's attacking Vigilance, it's growing, and then it's also dealing additional damage with lifelink. We're choosing legends like Eowyn Fearless Knight. When it enters, exile target creature an opponent controls with greater power. Straight up, that's just an exile effect. That's just dunzo. Stuff like Lauren, the third path that we saw earlier, destroy up to one target artifact or enchantment. Piru the Volatile. At the beginning of your upkeep, sack it unless you pay Mardu. This deals 7 damage to each non-legendary creature when it dies, so you gain 7 life per thing that it hits. It doesn't hit your stuff, and you can reanimate Piru as a board wipe as much as you can in this deck. And then with any reanimator build, you want cards that are going to help you or allow you to discard. When Celeste enters, discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards +1. That's allowing us to control it. And why do we want those effects? Because sometimes we're going to draw our finishers like Kefka Dancing Mad, like Avacyn, like Valgavoth, the ones that we don't want to cast naturally. Yes, Dihada will help us do that, which is another strength of Dihada. You saw us untap with 8 mana ready to go. We can hard cast Avacyn on turn 4 or 5 with this deck. That's pretty insane. But really, with a Reanimator deck, we want to be tossing it into the graveyard so that we can cast Reanimate on it for 1 mana and get it onto our battlefield early and take the game over. These are my 3 top ends currently: Avacyn Angel, Kefka Dancing Mad, and Valgavoth Terror Eater. Overall, this deck wins through crazy value early, like reanimating an Avacyn, or a mid-game play like fill up a great board and then play something like Urza's Ruinous Blast, exiling all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. Or it can go long and win with a card like Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. This was the first way I ever won with this deck, was filling up my graveyard over the course of a game and then activating Dihada, choosing Primeval's Glorious Rebirth from among the 4 cards that Dihada revealed because it's a legendary card, putting it into my hand, hard casting it right then, returning everything. It's all got haste, we're attacking, and it's crazy. And that's the last thing that I want to tell you to keep an eye out for, and that's instants, sorceries, artifacts, and enchantments that are legendary. Legendary lands, stuff like Minas Tirith, stuff like Takenuma Abandoned Mire. You're able to grab these, so you're going to want to fill up this deck over time with cards like that. They are able to be grabbed with Dihada's ability, and that will give you more utility value over time. You can see past that, it's got the game changers in here that push it up to bracket 4. It's got your Demonic Tutor, it's got your Smothering Tithe, but I found that it was such a strong deck anyway that it just needed to be a high power, because Dihada's got a reputation, and rightfully so. That QR code will take you right to the deck list. The list is also in the description in the top comment. Follow me over on Moxfield. Leave a comment if you like the deck. I'll talk to you in the next one.